I remember when the money wasn't there, supposed to say you 50, I got you. Gave my lawyer money there, when I fight my case. I ain't got to give him all that, but bro made sure he made a way for me to be straight.
That's how Lil Durk held it down for Jam until Jam turned around and betrayed him. Now everything's changed. A new video just dropped showing Jam begging for his life, and it's going viral. It's raw, it's emotional, and the internet's asking just one question: is this the end of Jam? Because if there's one thing we know about Durk, he doesn't let betrayal slide. Let's break it all down as Jam pleads for forgiveness. Jam went from being one of Lil Durk's most loyal soldiers to possibly being the rat who brought down the whole crew, and now he's begging for his life because again Durk is known for getting revenge. But before we get deep into the federal case and why the streets want Jam gone, we need to talk about the part most people miss. This wasn't just some random dude who got caught up. This was family. Jam and Lil Durk go way back, like before anyone even knew who they were. They were childhood friends from Chicago, growing up in the same neighborhoods, facing the same struggles: poverty, violence, survival, the kind of bond that's built in the trenches. In a 2023 interview with DJ Jerry, Jam even said Durk was like a brother to him. They made music together for block parties and local events long before the fame.
Like, I remember when the money wasn't there, supposed to say you 50, I got you.
This was back when Durk was just another young dude from Chicago trying to make something out of his rap skills. They weren't thinking about record deals, federal cases, or any of that heavy stuff. They were just homies from the block, grinding together, looking out for each other, dreaming about making it out of the hood. But then life happened, and life in Chicago? It's no joke. In 2010, when Jam was just 17, barely legal, caught an attempted murder charge and ended up with a 12-year sentence. Now we're not getting into all the details of what went down. That's between him and the streets. What really matters is what happened after. See, this is usually when most friendships fall apart. Your boy gets locked up for over a decade and life moves on. New friends, new priorities, new goals. The letters stop, phone calls get shorter, visits forget about it, out of sight, out of mind. But not Durk, as his career started to blow up when the money came in and the spotlight got brighter. Never forgot his day one locked up in a cell, and it wasn't just the usual stuff like sending commissary or dropping his name in a song. Nah, Durk went above and beyond. We're talking about real loyalty. Durk covered Jam's legal fees, and if you've ever dealt with serious charges like attempted murder, you know how expensive good lawyers are. Most rappers don't even look out for their own family, let alone a childhood friend. But Durk, he moved different.
Gave my lawyer money there, when I fight my case. I ain't got to give him all that, but bro made sure.
But the financial support was just the beginning. When Jam finally walked out of them prison gates in February 2022, Durk had a whole welcome home package waiting for him. We're talking about the type of homecoming that most people only dream about. First, Durk bought him a house, not just any house, a spot where Jam could lay his head, build his life back up, and have some stability after more than a decade behind bars. Then he bought him a car so the man could move around independently, handle his business, and start rebuilding his life. But even that wasn't enough for Durk. This dude went ahead and handed Jam over $50,000 in cash as a welcome home gift. $50,000, that's more money than most people see in a year, and Durk just handed it over like it was nothing, because that's how much his loyalty meant to him.
He said, Jam get out that Jam, I'll give him 50, he ain't gotta ask again, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying, he ain't gotta ask.
This type of loyalty was so rare, so genuine, that Durk even referenced it in music, specifically on King Von's track Back Again, where he rapped, Jam get out that Jam, I gave him 50, ain't got to ask again. Think about that. Durk was so proud of how he held his homeboy down that he put it in a song for the world to hear. The gratitude from Jam seemed real too. He publicly acknowledged Durk's loyalty, saying bro played his part, Faye Social overplayed it, I love bro for that.
Played this part for sure, man. Overplayed it. I love bro for it.
This wasn't just about money or material things. Durk really tried to change Jam's life. He brought him into the family, OTF, crew as an artist, even featured him on tracks like No Complaints and Focus. In 2022 and 2023 he gave Jam a real showed a legit way to make money, stay out of trouble, and build a real music career. Everything looked like it was finally falling into place. Jam was back home, he was grinding, he had real support, he was part of a successful team, and most importantly he had a loyal friend who never turned his back. This was supposed to be one of those rare stories where real friendship makes it through the worst. But then October 24, 2024 happened. That's when Lil Durk got arrested in Florida on serious federal charges, not local stuff, not state stuff, federal murder for hire charges, the kind that can put you away for life or worse. The case was tied to a 2022 plot targeting rapper Quando Rondo, which ended in the death of his cousin Savilo Pomp Robinson. 5 other people were arrested too, and if you know anything about the feds, they don't pull up unless they're ready. They come with paperwork, with surveillance, with wiretaps, with proof. But what really had the streets buzzing was this: how did the feds know so much about OTF's inner circle? That's when the rumors started flying. Someone had to be talking, someone had to be cooperating, someone had to be wearing a wire, and all eyes turned to Jam after Durk's arrest. Whispers turned to full-blown accusations. People were saying Jam had been cooperating with authorities, allegedly wearing a wire for years, feeding the feds info on Durk and the crew. And these weren't just random people talking online. We're talking about DJ Academics, Wack 100, and even Chicago rapper King Yella. They all started pointing fingers at Jam and these dudes. They don't throw around accusations lightly. They got connections. They hear things before the public ever finds out.
You know, we learned a lot when all this came out, man. You know, there's been a lot of allegations, you know, about people snitching. You know, so the main person they're talking about snitching is OTF Jam.
Academics claimed that Jam had been wearing a wire since his 2022 release, while Wack 100 said Jam flipped after catching a new gun charge. The theory was that Jam got jammed up again shortly after getting out, and rather than face more prison time, he made a deal with the devil. But the most damaging piece of evidence came in the form of some footage that went viral on October 30, 2024. A video surfaced allegedly showing Jam acting mad nervous around Durk, with people on social media speculating that he was wearing recording equipment. The comments on social media were brutal, with people analyzing his body language and saying stuff like, "Damn, they must be can't read body language because he moving hella weird." This video became the smoking gun for a lot of people. They watched it and saw a dude who was clearly uncomfortable, clearly hiding something, clearly not acting like the loyal friend he was supposed to be. Instead, they saw someone who might have been recording every conversation, every meeting, every moment of trust for the federal government. The legal documents seemed to support the theory too. An indictment filed in a U.S. District Court in Los Angeles suggested that an F member had been acting as a confidential informant, though Jam wasn't explicitly named. But everybody knows how these federal cases work. They use initials and code names to protect their sources, at least until trial time. What made this alleged betrayal so devastating wasn't just the legal implications, it was the personal betrayal. This wasn't some random associate or some dude on the periphery of the organization. This was supposedly family. This was the cat that Durk had lifted up, supported, trusted, and brought into his inner circle. If the allegations were true, it meant that every conversation Jam had with Durk after his release, every moment they shared, every piece of information he was given access to as a trusted member of, was potentially being recorded and handed over to federal agents. Think about how cold that is. You spend 12 years locked up, your homeboy holds you down in ways that most people never experience. He welcomes you home like you are his blood brother, and you repay the loyalty by helping the feds build a case against him in the streets. That's the type of betrayal that people never forgive and never forget. The hip-hop community's reaction was exactly what you'd expect in a culture where snitching is considered worse than murder, where cooperating with law enforcement can get you permanently blackballed or worse. The allegations against Jam were met with pure disgust. Social media went crazy, with people dissecting every piece of evidence, every rumor, every theory about what really happened. Some people defended Jam, saying there wasn't enough proof, but most people had already made up their minds. In their eyes, he was a rat, and rats don't get forgiveness in this culture. The streets don't forgive. Let me break down exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes, because the evidence that started coming out was straight up shocking, and the reactions from the streets were even crazier. First, let's talk about how the feds were moving in this case, because when you understand their strategy, you start to see why people were so convinced that they had someone on the inside feeding them information. The federal case against Lil Durk wasn't just some basic charges. They were painting F as a whole criminal enterprise that used violence to handle their business. This wasn't just about one incident. They were trying to show a pattern of organized criminal activity. The specifics of what allegedly went down were wild. According to the feds, on August 19, 2022, 5 dudes connected to F tracked and followed Quando Rondo around Los Angeles like they were hunting him. They used 2 different cars to tail his black Cadillac Escalade, and when they caught him at a gas station they let loose with at least 18 rounds including shots from a fully automatic weapon. Rondo wasn't hit but his cousin got killed. But here's the thing that had everybody suspicious: how did the feds know so much about the planning, the coordination, the aftermath? How did they have such detailed information about what was supposed to be a secret operation? The answer, according to multiple industry insiders, was that they had a snitch in the crew. Wack 100 didn't hold back when he broke down what he thought was really happening. He said there's a guy named Def Jam that was wired. Very ironic name. Jam got him in the jam. Real talk: when Wack 100 starts talking about federal cases and snitches, you better listen, because this dude has been around long enough to know how these things work. Wacko said he did 12 years, got out. Interviewed said he kept it real, brought him cars, gave him 50,000. This made mention that ain't no smut on his name. He ain't never been a rat, caught a gun case, but eventually he flipped the timeline that Wack laid out was crazy suspicious. According to him, Jam had allegedly been wearing a wire for 2 whole years, basically from the time he got out in 2022 until Durk's arrest in 2024. He got out in 2022, right around the same time of the Quando situation, and he allegedly had been wearing a wire for the last 2 years, from 22 to 24. Yeah, so he immediately got caught up. Think about how foul that is. From almost the moment Jam walked out of prison, when Durk was throwing him that welcome home party, buying him houses and cars, giving him $50,000 in cash, bringing him into the family. He might have been recording everything for the feds. Every conversation, every meeting, every moment of genuine brotherhood might have been contaminated by hidden recording devices. The reason for Jam's alleged cooperation was simple: self-preservation. Wack 100 claimed that Jam caught a new gun case after his release and decided to flip rather than face more prison time. Records show that Jam was arrested in May 2023 on some warrant related to his previous case, though the details of this new legal trouble stayed mostly under wraps. But here's the thing about cats who've already done serious time: they'll do almost anything to avoid going back. 12 years is a long time to be locked up, and once you taste freedom again, the thought of returning to a cell can make you do things you never thought you'd do. King Yella, who knows the streets of Chicago better than most, broke down some of the psychology behind why Jam might have made such a devastating choice.
OTF didn't help when OTF Jam baby mama was murdered while he was locked up, and I had him thinking the worst about that situation.
This added a whole other layer to the story that had people questioning everything. There were rumors that Durk ordered the killing of Jam's baby mama Octavia Redmond, who got shot and killed on July 19, 2024. Allegedly, after Durk found out that Jam was cooperating, a 15-year-old got charged with her murder, and there's no solid evidence linking Durk or F to the crime, but the timing had people talking. Word on the street was that Jam's baby mama had reached out to Durk for legal help when Jam caught his new case, but Durk allegedly ignored her calls. If that's true, that might have been the moment when Jam started feeling like F wasn't really family after all. King Yella broke down how these situations can turn even the closest friends into enemies.
This, I done did my last bid 4 years, but they ain't do so certain. I felt the type of way when I knew you had money. Not meaning that I want to do some snake to you like that, but in my head, maybe. Not no snitch, but I might want to do something to him.
That perspective shows you how complex these street relationships really are. Even when someone shows you love and loyalty, if you start feeling like they're not there when you really need them, resentment can build up, and in Jam's case that resentment might have made him vulnerable to federal pressure. But the evidence of Jam's alleged cooperation went way beyond just rumors and theories. According to prosecutors, recordings from their informant played a key role in building the case against Durk. This wasn't just about having someone on the inside, this was about having someone who could provide the type of concrete evidence that holds up in federal court. Things got even crazier when a song allegedly recorded by Jam surfaced with lyrics that seemed to reference Durk and violence. Some blogs claimed this was basically a diss track that incriminated, though nobody could verify if it was real or when it was recorded. The alleged lyrics included lines like "Smirk is the voice you heard what he said. So bullets behind it, we ain't have to tussle and only be rapping to kill me. A rapper so foreign will have something to put in their music. People on social media went crazy over these lyrics, interpreting them as proof that Jam was disloyal, with posts claiming that Jam allegedly released a song snitching on Chicago rapper Lil Durk and other suspects involved in the King Von Get Back hit. Whether this track was actually evidence or just got misunderstood is still up for debate. The situation got so intense that someone actually posted fake news on social media claiming that Jam had been shot and killed. The rumor got debunked, but it showed how much anger and scrutiny Jam was facing. The fact that people were so quick to believe and spread news about his death showed just how much hatred the allegations had generated. The hood even turned the situation into jokes and memes. Footage allegedly showing Jam eating McDonald's during a federal interrogation led to social media roasting him with comments like "Bro snitched on Dirt for a Big Mac and fries." While it might seem petty, it's actually how the hip-hop community processes these kinds of betrayals, through humor and cultural commentary that serves to further isolate those who violate the code. Meanwhile, Jam's silence was making everything worse. For months after Durk's arrest, Jam stayed quiet, neither confirming nor denying what people were saying about him. His absence from social media and public appearances only fueled more speculation about where he was and what role he really played in the case. At the same time, Durk was sitting in federal custody, facing the possibility of life in prison if convicted. The evidence against him seemed substantial, and a lot of it appeared to come from insider sources who had intimate knowledge of how operated Truth, Lies and Federal ties. In December 2024, Jam finally spoke up through Instagram stories, denying that he lied to Durk and claiming that the real truth would come out when the legal documents got released. His statement was straight up defiant: "When the discovery comes out, you're going to see I'm not how the feds got onto us or built their case. I'm going to let the paperwork come out because it's gonna tell it all." But yo, Jam didn't just deny the allegations and leave it at that. Homie went full offensive mode and started pointing fingers at other people, including the very dude who had shown him all that loyalty. He basically threw Durk under the bus, saying if Durk didn't want to get incriminated, he shouldn't have gone to the concerned crime scene. Real talk, that statement right there had people's heads spinning. This is the same cat who was talking about gang_forever just 2 years earlier, and now he's basically saying Durk brought his legal troubles on himself. That's not the type of response you expect from someone who's supposed to be loyal. Family. Jam also went after other members like Boona and Jerry, claiming they were spreading false stories about him, and he even targeted some women connected to the crew like Lexio and Nikki Nicole. This dude was basically burning bridges with everybody, acting like someone who felt betrayed and abandoned by the whole organization. But the most important part of Jam's statement was his promise that when the legal discovery documents became public, they would prove his innocence and expose whoever really gave the feds their information. This was a bold claim that put everything on a timeline. Either those documents would vindicate him or they'd bury him even deeper. The streets' reaction to Jam's statement was mixed as hell. Some people saw it as a desperate move by a guilty man trying to shift blame and create reasonable doubt. Others started wondering if maybe the story was more complicated than it first appeared. But regardless of where people stood, everybody was now waiting for those promised documents to drop. Meanwhile, some interesting developments in Durk's legal case started supporting parts of Jam's claims. The prosecution began showing cracks when they removed references to Durk's song lyrics from a superseding indictment in May 2025. Durk's legal team had been arguing that prosecutors basically lied to the grand jury by using lyrics from Wonderful Ween and Jackie Boy as evidence when the track was actually recorded 7 months before the incident even happened. This was significant because it showed that the prosecution's case might not be as bulletproof as they initially claimed. If they were willing to remove evidence that had been central to their original presentation, it raised serious questions about what other parts of their case might be built on shaky ground. Eric Nielsen, a professor who studies how rap lyrics get used in court cases, came out hard against the prosecution's tactics. He called their use of Durk's lyrics dangerously sloppy and argued that prosecutors were treating artistic expression like literal confessions without doing proper fact-checking. When you got academic experts calling out federal prosecutors for being sloppy, that's not a good look for the government's case. But the most interesting development came from legal observers who noticed major changes in how the prosecution was presenting their case in the superseding indictment. They completely removed paragraph 9 from the original charges, the paragraph that specifically laid out the murder for hire payment structure according to WACO. Paragraph 9 from the original indictment has been removed. This is what paragraph 9 says: at the direction of defendant Banks, defendant Wilson would pay the bounty or monetary reward and/or cause payment to be made for the killing of SR, that's Lil Pub, on behalf of co-conspirators. Essentially, the murder for hire paragraph is no longer part of the indictment. This removal was major because it suggested that whatever evidence the feds initially used to establish that Durk paid for the hit might not have been as solid as they first thought. Now, to understand why this whole situation is so significant in hip-hop culture, we got to look at other cases where rappers' crews allegedly turned on them. This type of betrayal has happened before and the consequences are always devastating. The most notorious example was 6ix9ine's situation with the 9 Trey Gangster Bloods. When 6ix9ine got hit with RICO charges, he completely flipped and cooperated with prosecutors testifying against his former associates to reduce his sentence. 6ix9ine's cooperation was public and explicit, which made him a permanent outcast in the hip-hop community and a walking example of what happens when you violate the code. Then there was Gunna's situation in the YSL RICO case, which showed how even technical legal moves can be seen as snitching by the culture. When Gunna took an offer plea in December 2022, he had to confirm in court that YSL is a music label and a gang.
YSL is a music label and a gang, and you have personal knowledge that members or associates of YSL have committed crimes in furtherance of the gang.
Yes, ma'am.
Even though Goon maintained he wasn't cooperating, major rappers like Lil Durk, Lil Baby, Meek Mill and Polo G unfollowed him on social media, and the hip-hop community basically treated him like a snitch. His career took a major hit and he's still trying to rebuild his reputation in the culture, but the F-Jam situation was different from both of these cases. Unlike 6ix9ine, there was no public testimony or explicit cooperation that anybody could point to. Unlike Goon, there was no formal plea deal where he made admissions in court. Instead, the allegations against Jam were based mostly on rumors, speculation and circumstantial evidence. The lack of concrete proof didn't stop the streets from passing judgment. The hip-hop culture is already suspicious of anyone who might cooperate with law enforcement, so when the allegations against Jam started flying, a lot of people just accepted them as fact without waiting for real evidence. The situation got even more complicated because Durk's trial got pushed back to October 2025 due to how complex the case was, with over 230 gigabytes of digital evidence and 20,000 pages of reports. This meant that those discovery documents Jam promised would clear his name might not become public for months or even years. While all this legal drama was playing out, Jam's whereabouts became a mystery, with people speculating that he was staying away from Chicago because of safety concerns. Between the snitching allegations and his baby mama's murder, he had become a target from multiple angles. The broader implications of this case go way beyond just the people involved. It highlights the impossible position that people in street-oriented hip-hop culture find themselves in when they're caught between loyalty and survival. King Yella broke down the psychology behind these situations in a way that really made sense.
And you got images. My OTF try to, you see, you know, the GD, like, we don't give a, I ain't got no filter. You do something, I'm calling you out for it. That's why what it is. That's how we was raised anyway. Try to keep they together so they won't look bad.
This observation shows how the pressure to maintain street credibility and protect reputations can sometimes conflict with the reality of facing decades in federal prison. The image of absolute loyalty that hip-hop celebrates doesn't always line up with the complex decisions people have to make when the feds come knocking. Charleston White, never one to hold back his controversial opinions, weighed in on the whole situation with his typical no-filter approach.
Somebody laughing at Durk like they were laughing at me when I went to jail. Lord have mercy. So ain't nobody laughing at Durk. Now it ain't funny. Now your favorite rapper go to jail and look like he got a no bond like me.
White's commentary, while always provocative, reflected a broader conversation within the hip-hop community about the consequences of mixing street life with mainstream success and the responsibility that comes with influence. As we look toward the resolution of this case, several major questions remain unanswered. Will those discovery documents that Jam promised actually vindicate him, or will they reveal even more damaging information? Will Durk's legal team be able to successfully challenge the prosecution's case, or will the federal government's resources prove too much? And most importantly, what will this whole situation mean for the culture of loyalty and brotherhood that's been central to hip-hop since day one? Whatever happens in court, the damage to relationships and reputations is already done. The bond between Durk and Jam, once held up as an example of unbreakable loyalty and real brotherhood, has been destroyed by allegations and suspicions that might never be fully resolved. The trust that made their relationship so meaningful has become the source of its destruction. Like this video, click on the cards showing on your screen for more.